We're going to pull it together now, guys. All right. It's 6:02 p.m., February 18th, 2026, and I welcome you to the City of Paris Planning Commission meeting. And it's welcome. It's cold outside. It's a little cold in here, but that's okay. We will have our roll call by our illustrious secretary.
Commissioner Lopez,
Here.
Commissioner Jimenez,
Here.
Commissioner Menez,
Here.
Vice Chair Shively,
Here.
Chair Hammond.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And at this time, we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance by Commissioner Lopez.
Please stand for the pledge.
Thank you very much. Item 4 is presentations. I don't believe we have any. So we'll move on to consent calendar. Approval of Planning Commission minutes, February 4th, 2026 meeting. Are there any corrections, deletions, additions? We open it up for public comment. If anyone in the public would like to comment on the approval, the consent calendar item A, you're welcome to come forward at this time. Seeing none, we close the public comment portion and move on for a motion to approve. Then moved by Commissioner Lopez, seconded by Commissioner Menez.
Commissioner Lopez,
Yes.
Commissioner Jimenez,
Yes.
Commissioner Menez,
Yes.
Vice Chair Shively,
Yes.
Chair Hammond.
Yes.
Thank you. With vote 5-0, this motion is approved.
Thank you very much. We move on to item 6, public hearing items. Oh, okay. Item A, specific plan amendment 26-00001 and zoning code text amendment 26-00001. A proposal to amend the zoning code, Title 19 of the Paris Valley Municipal Code, Paris Valley Commerce Center specific plan, Downtown Paris specific plan, and the Green Valley specific plan to establish a minor conditional use permit process for lower impact uses. The applicant is the City of Paris. Requested action that we adopt Resolution 26-04, recommending that the City Council determine the project is exempt from the California Quality Act guidelines pursuant to Section 15061B3, Common Sense Exemption. And it can be seen with certainty the proposed amendment will not have a significant effect on the environment, and approve zoning code text amendment 26-00001 to amend the Paris Municipal Code to establish a minor conditional use permit process for lower impact uses based on the findings contained herein. Adopt Resolution 26-05, recommending that the City Council determine the project is adequately covered by the corresponding PVC, CSP, DP, SP, GPSP, EIR, and no further environmental review is required. The proposed amendment also qualifies to be exempt from the California Quality Act guidelines pursuant to Section 15061, Common Sense Exemption. And it can be seen with certainty the proposed amendment will not have a significant effect on the environment, and approve specific plan amendment 26-00001 to amend the PVCC-SP, DPSP, GPSP, establish a minor conditional use permit process for the lower impact uses based on findings contained herein. Thank you very much. And we have Mr. Raphael, I see you, make the presentation.
Good evening, honorable members of the Planning Commission. As you indicated, we're here before you tonight to go over an amendment for the establishing a process pertaining to minor conditional use permits. A little bit of context is that the Paris zoning code currently requires that all conditionally permitted uses be reviewed through a CUP process regardless of the scale or intensity of the project. Over time, staff has witnessed that certain uses typically demonstrate minimal impacts and are routinely approved with standard conditions. A minor conditional use permit process would provide an administrative level review process for lower impact development uses, including land uses that provide entertainment options for the residents of the community. This is a way to promote economic development by streamlining the entitlement process and expediting certain projects, while preserving the city's ability to impose conditions and ensure that land uses are compatible with the surrounding area. So what staff has done is we've incorporated some language to establish a minor conditional use permit process, and on top of that, we've identified certain land uses that would qualify as part of this process. And we've done that for the zoning code as well as for 3 specific plans. So what I will be doing is going over these are the changes that would be done to the commercial neighborhood as well as the commercial community zones, 1936 and 1938 of the city's zoning code. So uses such as arcades, bowling alleys, drive-through services for banks and pharmacies, florist shops with incidental alcohol sales, health and fitness centers, microbreweries overall, skating facilities, tutoring centers, urgent care facilities, veterinary services, and vocational schools would all be allowed within chapters 1936, which is the commercial neighborhood, as well as 1938, the commercial community zones. The only exception there is the bowling alleys. They currently are, bowling alleys is a use that's already allowed within chapter 1938, and so the bowling alley would be something that would only be applicable to the 1936. On top of that, we are also amending the land use table provided in section 1944. This is for the industrial zones of the city zoning code. That is proposed to be amended as per the red lines that you see on the screen. And that would include a few things, including allowing indoor commercial recreation uses with a minor CUP. Staff is also proposing one minor revision to what you see on the screen, which is to combine the microbrewery with off-sale retail, along with the microbrewery with on-sale retail, in order to make it simpler, more easy to understand. So we've actually created a definition that would encapsulate both uses, so that both uses would be allowed, and the land use or the permit type would be outlined as part of the microbrewery with on-sale tasting room, so that we would also allow off-sale as part of that, in that a lot of the microbreweries can be seen as a more specialized product that offers artisanal products that are unique in nature. We're also proposing to allow restaurants that are serving alcohol beverages with a minor CUP, as well as urgent care, veterinary services, and vocational schools within the industrial zones of the city zoning code. Now, as part of this, something to keep in mind is that the Planning Commission is currently the approving authority for CUPs. The amendment before you tonight includes revisions to the review authority provisions contained as part of section 1954.030, as shown in red, which would outline the review authority and the approval authority for the minor conditional use permit application requests. On top of this, we are also amending 3 different specific plans. The first would be the Paris Valley Commerce Center specific plan. We are proposing amendments in order to allow a wide variety of uses, some of them which are already included as part of the specific plan, but that would be allowed with a minor CUP, and that includes veterinary services, drive-through services for banks and pharmacies, again, the microbreweries, personal services within the light industrial zone, hospital would also be something that would be allowed, the hospital used to include the urgent centers. Urgent centers is being included as part of a separate land use classification towards the bottom of the table. And that's going to be separated, so in order to allow urgent centers potentially with an MCUP, with a minor CUP, within the general industrial, the BPO, as well as the commercial districts. It would also allow schools and trade schools with a minor CUP in the light industrial and the general industrial, as well as the commercial zones. And it would allow the recreational areas, facilities, basically which would be consistent with the indoor health facilities within the BPO as well as the commercial zones. One of the specific plan that's being amended is the downtown specific plan. The amendment before you tonight would also amend sections 5.41, 5.42, and 5.43 subsection H of each of the sections to allow arcades, bowling alleys, florist shops with incidental alcohol sales, health and fitness centers that are less than 5,000 square feet in area, microbreweries, skating facilities, tutoring services, and vocational schools, all with, again, a minor conditional use permit. Lastly, the Green Valley specific plan is also proposed to be amended. Specifically, staff is recommending to amend chapters 3.5 and 3.6 to include some additional land uses that would be allowed with a minor conditional use permit, which would include drive-through services for banks and pharmacies, publicly owned museums, libraries, and community centers, as well as government offices and recreation areas, private clubs, lounges, and veteran organizations, as well as urgent care facilities within Chapter 3.5, which is the retail commercial zone, and fire and police stations, private clubs, fraternities, sororities, lodges, and nonprofit organizations, as well as all other business park uses requiring a minor conditional use permit not mentioned but allowed per Chapter 1944 of the zoning code within Chapter 3.6, which is the business and professional zone. Now, staff ended up making a slight tweak to the brewery definition in order to make it easier to understand and more digestible for the applicants. So we are making a change to the microbrewery definition to mean a use that is engaged in the on-site production of malt beverages, including beers and similar fermented beverages in quantities limited to 15,000 barrels per year, which may include accessory activities such as brewing, fermenting, conditioning, bottling, canning, kegging, packaging, storage, and distribution of products produced on the premises, and includes retail sales of malt beverages manufactured on-site for off-premises consumption, and or the on-site services and consumption of the malt beverages manufactured on the premises. That would also allow for retail sale of the product or similar beverages that are produced off the premises within a tasting room or tap room area. The use may include incidental food service, merchandise sales, tours, and educational events as well. And that's something that, again, is being added to try to include all of the different variations or different uses that hopefully will attract new businesses to the community. And as you can see, this picture of some of the microbreweries that are out there, and something that would be consistent with what we would expect. So this wouldn't necessarily operate like a conventional liquor store. It also wouldn't operate as like a conventional bar. The purpose of this is for these types of business to offer a specialty product that has artisanal qualities for the members of the community. Now, with that said, the proposed zoning code text amendment has been determined to be exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act pursuant to CEQA Section 15061B3. With that said, the Planning Commission is recommending, or staff is recommending that the Planning Commission recommend that the City Council determine that the project is exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act pursuant to CEQA Section 15061B3 and approve zoning code text amendment 26-00001 and specific plan amendment to the Paris Valley Commerce Center specific plan, the Downtown Paris specific plan, as well as the Green Valley specific plan, based on the findings contained as part of the resolution. That concludes the presentation. I don't believe that there is anybody in the audience here, but staff will be happy to respond to any questions that the members of the commission may have pertaining to this item. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
And Mr. Chair, if I may, I have some technical changes to the resolutions I could read into the record at this time and make that part of staff's recommendation if staff's okay with it.
Yeah.
Okay. So in addition to the changes that were referenced by Mr. Garcia, where the 2 microbrewery definitions would be consolidated into one, and the land use regulations that are currently listed for the microbrewery on sale would apply to that one consolidated definition. In addition to those changes, we would also make the following changes to the Planning Commission resolutions. So for 2604, Section 4, this is on page 18 of your packet. We would just change the word, it refers to the changes that would be made to the code being shown in red font. It should just say in red line font instead of red font. And then on page 53 of your packet, which is in resolution 26-05, in section 2A, which is the CEQA finding for the Paris Valley Commerce Center specific plan, EIR, the second sentence of that paragraph should be replaced to instead read as stated in the second sentence of the paragraph below that, in subsection B as well as in subsection C. So just replace that sentence. And then in that same resolution, in section 5, which is page 55 of your packet, we would just add something to state that, or section 4 actually, add a reference to state that the changes to the code are as shown in red line in the attachments to the resolution, and also adding language authorizing the director to make further edits consistent with the intent of this recommendation. And that would be the same language that's currently shown in section 4 of resolution 2604. So we would add that same language to section 4 of resolution 26-05, and that's it.
Okay. Are there any questions of staff at this time?
Excuse me, I do have a question regarding the review authority table. Some of the items that you have listed are with alcohol sales and such, so including two, but one is not listed that often commonly have alcohol sales, which is bowling alleys. And perhaps arcades, depends on the arcade. So those are, if any of those two items, bowling alley and arcade would like to have alcohol sales, would that not be in this category?
The bowling alley classification, I think, but along with the arcade, the current code does not distinguish that, so it does not itemize that as an additional use. It's something that we can include as part of tonight's meeting. Typically, bowling alleys, I would say that most of them include some level of alcohol service, so it's something that we can add for clarity. Arcades, I've seen them before, so I have seen them with alcohol. Again, it's something that we can add tonight if that's something that the Planning Commission would like to recommend to the City Council.
Yeah. So I guess it's something that we need to discuss, that maybe it's outside of this purview, or if it doesn't have alcohol sales, it can be a MCUP, or maybe.
I would say
with
that
it.
definitely on the bowling alley side, I would say that that's typically alcohol, some level of alcohol sales is something that's, that goes hand in hand with the bowling alleys. With arcades is something I think that's maybe the one that you guys would want to discuss to see if you want to allow alcohol. It's a very good point, just because the arcade at this point would be allowed, but not necessarily with alcohol service as written as part of this, the amendment that's before you tonight.
So should we actually amend the bowling alley with alcohol, or is that in 1936 spelled out already?
It does not include alcohol.
Or do we want to include that here?
If the planning
With or
commission
without?
wishes, yes.
And then the other part B of my question was the reviewing authority, and probably the responsible agency, I'm sure, is the alcohol board.
For the alcohol?
Yeah.
For the alcohol, it would still be through the minor CUP, and it would be the director. The license, the alcohol license would go through ABC.
And
So
part
that's, so typically when we approve an alcohol use, we would condition, so the director would issue the approval for a minor CUP with a condition approval that they secure the alcohol license that's required from the ABC, the state agency that oversees alcohol licenses.
That's why I'm intending to read it as well. And then any of these items, because it's a minor conditional use permit and the director is reviewing these and approving them, then we will not see them, any of them.
No, and the whole idea for the minor conditional use permit is to streamline the process, to facilitate economic development in different areas of the city, including our downtown. And yes, the director would be the approving authority. The decision of the director may be appealed to the planning commission if the applicant is not satisfied with the action taken by the director. Or the director may also refer an item to the planning commission.
I do appreciate I don't want to say lowering of standards, but the lowering of the ease of being able to get this done quicker for smaller businesses and to encourage that to be in those in those zones. I think that's a very good process that should have been done sooner.
I was curious, are the uses that were outlined in the presentation and in red in the staff report for eligibility for MCUP, is that an exhaustive list? Or are there any other purposes that are also falling under this that we haven't like explicitly seen?
I guess I'll explain the methodology of how we compile the list. What we did is we attempted to go through the code, through the land use classifications, and determine, is there anything that's missing? Sometimes there's land uses that are just not explicitly identified. So we attempted to do that by looking at, obviously, 4 documents. So we have the zoning code, we have commercial and industrial zones, we have 3 specific plans: the downtown specific plan, the Paris Valley, and the Green Valley. So we attempted to create a list that included all of the uses, within reason. Does this list include every potential use out there? The answer is no. It doesn't include every potential use that you could imagine. But we attempted to include uses that would be seen as uses that would help promote economic development within the city and that would facilitate the process for those uses that the city would deem attractive. And so that's what we attempted to do. And we attempted to locate those uses in the proper location. So for instance, an industrial type use wouldn't necessarily be appropriate in the downtown area and so forth. So we attempted to locate them in areas that were appropriate when you account for the operational characteristics of the given land use.
So those located uses, the ones that we've determined, don't need such a high barrier.
Typically they would be, I would say, uses that would require a conditional use permit, but that typically, they're still going to go through a process, but that have maybe lower likelihood of creating impacts on the neighborhood, on the neighboring community.
Yes, I guess what I'm asking is, what's listed here and then explicitly in red in the zoning code, is that all encompassing of what is eligible for the MCUP? I know that there's some discretion if it's very similar, there can be some leeway, but is there anything that we're making eligible for a minor CUP that isn't listed explicitly here?
No.
Okay.
All the uses that you see here would be the uses that would be allowed through an MCUP. There is, I believe, one caveat that says that the director may make a determination, but basically, all the intent was to allow these specific uses.
Okay, thank you. And then another question, if in the future we would like to add more, like maybe we identify similar developments or other developments that would really benefit from the minor CUP process, would adding those to the eligibility list or the eligible list, would that also be a public hearing, or would that be something that's up to the discretion of the city?
It could be either or. It really depends on the discretion of the director. So the director may say, hey, this use that's being proposed, like a new use, it's analogous to what's here, so I feel comfortable moving forward, or he may direct it to the planning commission. Ultimately, if there was a use that's not specifically outlined here, most likely it could potentially require a zoning code amendment. So if there's any use that the commission believes that should be included here, that's something that we can take into consideration and take it before the city council.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have for right now. Thank you.
Okay, I did want to ask, can we pull up the slide that has the PVCC zoning changes, please? Thank you. So just to clarify, L1 is light industrial, general industrial, business park, commercial, residential, multifamily residential, right? Those are the headings across the top.
That is correct.
Because, is this the only slide? Because I'm looking at 20.2 within our presentation, and there are more.
There are more land use classifications on the overall table in the specific plan, but the table that you see on the screen were the only changes that are proposed.
Okay, because on my end, live work units also goes under BPO to a minor conditional use permit as well as in commercial. And I don't see live work units here.
I'd have to double check that. Give me 1 second.
Yeah, it's within our packet, page 59. There are more changes on here, so like live work units, we didn't review, and there's more.
Commissioner Jimenez, you are correct.
Yeah, pages 58 to 61 of your packet is like the full official list of what would be, it has the full current table and shows all the proposed changes in red line format.
Okay, so the correct one would be the one in the packet and not.
That is
This
correct. So
slide.
live work should have been included as part of this list. That's
Can you
correct.
tell me what live work is, please?
Live work is a type of use where somebody who works in a commercial, as part of a commercial business, would also live on site specifically. So the commercial business, which typically doesn't include a lot of the residential amenities, would include those amenities. That can include something like a kitchen, a small kitchen, or potentially even a bathroom. Not all businesses have like a shower, for instance. And so live work would be something that would include a residential component as part of a commercial tenant space.
Is that similar to what we see in like storage facilities?
Not
Then a little bit different.
This would be maybe for somebody who has maybe like a shoe repair shop or something like that, where they have maybe a 2-story building and they have the business on the bottom portion of the building, and then they live on the second story. That was kind of the idea.
Okay.
Or like an art studio, like somebody who does art.
And they, have a little loft within where they create
Correct.
their art. Okay.
Yeah, typically, it would not include any type of industrial warehousing, just because the occupancy there is not something that typically you would see residential in conjunction with warehousing.
Okay.
They're usually low-impact uses combined
Yeah.
with residential.
Okay. And I also wanted to ask where the bowling alley and skating rink fall within these changes in the PVCC?
So that's a good question. They were not included in part of this specific plan just because the Pacific plan has more of an industrial nature. So it's something that you can include. Every land use that you saw as part of the zoning was not necessarily included as part of every single specific plan. We attempted to locate them in areas that were deemed the most appropriate given kind of the original intent of the specific plan area. However, if you wish to include them as part of this list, that's something that is that's an option that the Planning Commission has here tonight.
I'm going to check with my commissioners in a second, but I feel like it's important because I felt it could fall within recreational areas and facilities, but that all has a limit of less than 5,000 feet. So that would be limiting if we put, to me, that's a recreational area, a skating rink and a bowling alley are considered recreational.
I think the recreational is something that some of that verbiage was already in the Paris Valley Commerce Center specific plan. But what we attempted to do is include something for kind of a health and fitness center. So as an example, that would be something like maybe like a small CrossFit, small gym, maybe like a Pilates studio.
Yeah.
Something that could potentially go in an industrially zoned property. That was kind of the idea.
The
But
idea,
yeah,
okay.
typically you wouldn't, I would say you would see maybe certain recreational uses there. You wouldn't necessarily see a bowling alley in a more industrial area. There are certain, there is some commercial in the Paris Valley Commerce Center specific plan. Maybe that would be more appropriate, but it's just something that's if the Planning Commission has an interest in providing bowling alleys and what have you in this, that's something that we can include here tonight.
I think specifying, because we are adding bowling alley, arcade, and skating rinks, which are recreational opportunities, but they're not specified within the original one. So maybe having another line that groups them together and with a definition of them clarifying because doesn't.
Or I wonder if there would be a way to say like an all-encompassing definition.
Yes.
Because I don't know, you triggered something in my brain. I don't know if it's Ontario, it's somewhere. There's like the bottom floor of what was supposed to be a warehouse, they converted it into like a go-kart
Yes.
area. So like something like that, something that's all-encompassing that wouldn't typically be in that zone. I mean,
I would also say escape rooms. I know those are really big. I know that I've been to a couple in Ontario that are in an industrial zone. So I don't know. I mean, escape rooms are the best.
and I feel like there could be something that really encompasses
Encompasses
all
like
of
that kind of definition where we can
Family
maybe,
fun,
yes.
something.
Because it
Yeah.
is recreational, but this is recreational focusing on like the indoor health and fitness, but we need recreational.
You're absolutely correct. I'm researching what definition is provided in the Paris Valley Commerce Center specific plan right now for recreational areas. Because if not, if we don't provide one, I think it's a great idea to include the amenities that you're speaking of right now. The indoor health and fitness, it was just like
Example.
like an example. It not to be less than 5,000 square feet.
Okay.
But it was not intended for that to be the only recreational amenity under that definition. So if you give us a few minutes, we can come back to that.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Because it could be just taking that out too, if it's already in the definition, or it could be just,
What we could do is we could probably strike out some of the language as part of the table.
and then just add that to the definition.
And then add it to the definition. And what we can do is include bowling alleys, escape rooms, go-karts, anything else that maybe you may want, and not limited to 5,000. Because some of those uses, most
You
likely,
can have a go-kart in 5,000
yeah, most
square
likely
feet.
they're going to be larger than 5,000.
It's too small, yeah. My other question was when we were talking about the tutoring locations and the vocational schools or schools, it doesn't specify it in the CC, but I did want to ask, is that no more than 20 students on location at the time, or does it include not having more than 20 students on your roster?
In this case, it would include at any one point in time. So if
Okay.
they wanted to have, let's say, 5 classes throughout the day and 20, 20, 20, and they wanted to have 100 students, that's fine. The purpose of that is just to limit the amount of parking and traffic on site. Typically, the industrial buildings, when they're designed, they're not designed with a lot of parking.
Right.
So, but at the same time, schools are, depending on the type of school, it doesn't really operate like a regular use in that a lot of the times, for instance, if somebody wanted to do like a music studio or something like that, a lot of the children get dropped off, or kids, they may get dropped off at the location. So the purpose was to allow 20 at any one point in time. That was the intent.
Okay, maybe you want to clarify that. There's actually up north, there's an amazing charter school system, and they have taken like old commercial/industrial and converted it, and they have these amazing CT pathways, and it's phenomenal, but it's in a non-use commercial facility. One of the schools is in a old industrial building that they broke down, and it's just a phenomenal school, but maybe we do want to specify 20 on location at a time, because we don't want it to, somebody who wants to apply, say, I can only have 20 students on my roster, that won't pay the bills.
Commissioner Jimenez, I was able to find the definition for recreation areas and facilities indoor. And it reads as follows: amusement or entertainment provided in an enclosed space designed to provide pleasure or relaxation, such as billiard halls, amusement centers, social fraternal organizations, indoor commercial recreation, restaurants with entertainment, excludes adult entertainment, bowling alleys, movie theaters, climbing walls, batting cages, go-kart racing, billiards, arcades, and laser tag.
It includes bowling alleys, yeah.
Yes. So
Miniature golf. I didn't hear that.
if we want to add anything to the definition, this is the
A
opportunity
glow
to
golf,
do
I
so.
think, would be good, like an indoor, well,
I think trampoline park would be a good addition.
trampoline park.
It's probably nearly impossible to list all the facilities.
Yeah, but we know.
But using specific words to allow for it, and I think it's very discretionary to have an openness to it as well.
Yeah, so I think the main thing would be then to maybe remove and adding within that definition, indoor health and fitness, less than 5,000 square feet to the definition, instead of having it on the title
Agreed.
description here.
Agreed.
Okay. And is this something that we can add to be revisited every so often by the commission, even if the city, if we move it on to the city and they approve it? My concern is we have amazing staff right now, but a few years down the line, we may not, and their standards may not be as high as ours. So is this something that we can have it come back? I'm trying to be nice. Bring back to the planning commission just for a revisit, or is it something, once it's approved by the city council, it's said and done? Or is that something we can recommend for them to have a periodic update and check of where we're at with this?
I think more than a periodic update and check, it's just that the city always has the discretion to initiate further zone text amendments. So, and I believe that normally can be initiated either by the director of development services or by the city council or planning commission. I would have to double check the code on that. But in other words, it's a legislative action. The city can always initiate another action to change it back or to change it more, add more uses that are allowed with MCUP, subtract uses that are allowed with an MCUP, or change it however the city wants. You can always initiate another change.
Okay, we
So it wouldn't be
can.
something you'd need to necessarily revisit. I mean, you could ask staff to set, a standing item each year to,
I would like
look
that.
at it. It's not like you couldn't do that. But you know what the code says.
Yes.
So it's going to continue to say that until you change it. So you don't need to necessarily revisit it. It's just that you can look up the code anytime, and if you feel that something needs to be changed, you can bring that up with staff. Staff can initiate a zoning code text amendment, and it can come before the planning commission to consider changing it, which would be a recommendation to the
To the
council.
council.
Yeah.
May I jump in a little bit? I think that's kind of what I was asking before. In any zoning change, text change, so say in the future somebody decides, no, we want to take this away, or oh, I want to add a couple other uses. Would that always be a public hearing item? So then would that be coming to the
Yes.
commission regardless?
Yeah, any change to the zoning ordinance or to the specific plans is a public hearing item
Okay.
that requires a planning commission hearing and recommendation to the council and ultimately council approval to make the change.
Okay.
So is that something that I can put on here that I would like for it to be a yearly, putting it on the agenda? Because if we have commissioner changes, staffing changes, so that just we make sure we keep it on the docket and that whoever the planning commissioners are at the time know what happened?
So I don't know that that can go on like for the infinite future, like it's always going to, we could just say right now and require that it's going to be a standing item every year, but maybe we could, the commissioners can always request staff to add items to a future agenda. So you could say, to get started, can you add an item to the agenda for, 1 year from now to revisit
Yes.
this? And then at that point, we would go from there. It's not like we would be required to have it
Definite.
each
Okay.
year, but we could have a checkup in 1 year and look at it then and then go from there.
Okay. Yes.
See how it goes for the first year with MCUP in place and then. revisit.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
I'm all about checking balances and making sure we're doing the right thing, see if anything needs to be tweaked, yes.
And speaking of checking things and seeing if they need to be tweaked, I noticed, I don't know if it's a typo or maybe I misunderstood previously, on page 37 in attachment 3, it's the land uses table for industrial zone districts. For BP zone, warehouse and warehouse distribution center are still listed as CUP, allowed CUP. I don't know if that's a typo, because I do believe we eliminated that use from the
This park
business
is out
park
of it.
zone.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a typo. I just want to make sure that if it is, that it gets addressed.
Yeah, that looks to be out of date. That warehouse, the warehouse row under the BP zone column, I believe that's already been changed to prohibited from CUP by council action, am I right?
Yes.
So then that's just, it's probably that this was copied from the online code, which doesn't reflect the change yet. So that can just be updated.
I did see that, yeah, and because I did check the online code and it says the same. It still says CUP.
Because
and then it
after the
says-
council approves a zone text change, it takes several months for the online code editors to make the change to reflect it. So I think when staff copied the table from the online code for purposes of making these changes, that hadn't been reflected yet and they didn't catch that.
Okay, got it.
But that
Thank you.
doesn't mean that the intent here is for it to be a CUP. It's still prohibited and that can be corrected in the resolution that gets signed.
Got it. Thank you.
And on that question, on that same table, I noticed that a microbrewery and urgent care under general industrial, it still requires a CUP, right? It's not a minor CUP.
The microbrewery and which one else?
Urgent care. They're listed as CUP.
Yeah, so some of
them are
them would still be CUP.
Okay, good.
It's not, in some cases, it's MCUP across the board, but not in all cases.
Right.
So in some cases, you're saying, no, you're still gonna need a CUP because maybe the use wouldn't be as appropriate in this
For
zone
that
versus
area.
another zone.
Yes.
So again, it's one of those things where if the planning commission wishes, you can make those changes here today, but
Okay, perfect. That's it for me.
You follow that? Yeah. No. I'm trying to put this in context. Okay, obviously, the ultimate intent is to streamline this process. It puts the power in the hands of the director. Hopefully, we trust. No, I'm just kidding. administrative review, it's only if you trust staff. I think one of the, I'm gonna go back to a few points. I'm not gonna belabor. One is that when you, anytime you have alcohol, whether it's a brewery or that, and you don't, the CUP process, of course, you're talking about initial, saying that if you're coming in with a microbrewery and you have these distinctions, they're selling it, they're doing it, they're still drinking alcohol. One of the things is they have discretionary review to approve it, but then the follow-up is who's going to oversee this? So if there's an issue, it comes to who? So if there's discretionary review, it's approval by a director, but then they find out, well, they're not actually drinking like they're crazy there. They're selling it to minors, all this other stuff. It stops at an administrative review. We need to have wording in all of these saying that ultimately, the ultimate final decision would be the planning commission if need be. In other words, if there's an issue, like, I'll give you a perfect example, 7-Eleven starts selling stuff to minors outside the door, the police start have all these write-ups and issues. It's a CUP issue. It comes to the planning commission, right? So if there's issues, and I'm saying they won't do this, but I'm saying the approval, discretionary approval, is to get the streamlined process, get it going. But I think ultimately we need to have wording say that things can be appealed to the planning commission if there's an issue, or to some way get to the planning commission if need be. Just like if they get past us, it goes to the city council. We can decide things, and the city council says appeal it to them. If we say no, they can oversee us and say no. They have that discretion. But I'm just saying this is just one point. I'm just wondering, particularly when it comes to alcohol sales. And we have one on this street over here. I forget it, Morgan, whatever is over there that we opened up. I think they're going to have tasting and things like that. Hopefully, tasting they get past tasting, but they're tasting it. They're developing it on site and all that, assuming that these are people who are legitimate. But you're saying you're combining off sale is one thing, but on site where you're sipping those kind of things. I'm just focusing on microbrewery one thing. That's an issue of what happens to the next stage. So I don't know if it's written in this thing that somehow this past the director does it come to the planning commission. One more thing too, I do agree too, and when it comes to arcades, bowling alleys, especially arcade bowling alleys, where you actually will have sales of alcohol there, and we have to watch the wording in this thing because you can approve a bowling alley and they're going to want beer there. I'm not going to drink it, but the people will drink beer at bowling alleys. It may come with Harvest Landing, who knows? But you get those kind of things that you do that's not skating. Disco skating in the past, that's before you guys, okay? But now those kind of things would come with alcohol. Would we have wording to the effect that we're just saying, well, okay, it's permitted, but it's approved discretionary, but then you have the oversight. If there's a problem with bowling alleys, if there's a problem with alcohol sales, if there's a problem with that, where do you go to? If we already have approval to do it, but what happens if there are violations of this? Is this a standard process in the city for that? And then I'll stop with that one for now.
So, Chair Hammond, I can speak to the oversight concern. So that goes to the revocation provisions of the code for conditional use permits. So it's on page 46 of your packet.
What's this 46?
It shows the text of section 19.61.060 of the zoning ordinance, which pertains to revocation for conditional use permits. And as you can see, staff is proposing to just add the phrase minor conditional use permit to that section so that minor conditional use permits are treated the same way as conditional use permits when it comes to revocation. So subsection A states that the Planning Commission, on its own motion at a public hearing, may revoke or modify a conditional use permit, and is proposed to say, or minor conditional use permit, upon making one of the findings in subsection C. And then subsection C has the required findings that would need to be made for revocation of a conditional use permit, and now also proposed to be the required findings for a minor conditional use permit. So it would be the same revocation process for an MCUP as it would be for a CUP.
And just for clarification for us, if there's a problem in any of these areas, the alcohol sales, and I know it says it's there, but the process, if it's approved administratively originally, but then there's an issue, the city finds the issue, the city would bring it to the planning commission, that there's an issue to revoke that. that just go through the standard process? In other words, revocation, it has to get to us some way. So it's a public hearing, and then it would
He
be,
finds that there's one of the criteria for revocation has been met, like there's been a violation of the conditions of approval, or the use has become a nuisance, or the MCUP was obtained by fraud. The city would initiate a revocation process, and it would come before the Planning Commission for a hearing to consider revocation of the permit. So the Planning Commission would be the approval authority or the decision-making body for whether or not to revoke a CUP or an MCUP. That would be added. So currently, the decision as to whether to revoke a CUP goes to the Planning Commission, and this would now be the case as well with the MCUP. And you also asked the question about appeals. So generally, I think the code already states, I haven't confirmed this, but I believe the code states that any approval decision that's made by the director can be appealed to the Planning Commission,
Yeah.
just like any approval decision that's
Right.
made by the Planning Commission can be appealed to the City Council. So if the director approves an MCUP or denies it, that decision on the MCUP can be appealed to the Planning Commission.
okay. Just for clarification, is that stated there?
That's
Yep.
stated in another portion of the code.
Okay. You
Yeah.
may want to make reference to that there. I'm very legalistic, guys. Make reference to the other portion of the code, whatever
We
section
can put
is.
something in to clarify that decisions of the director regarding MCUP applications may be appealed to the Planning Commission.
Yes, yes.
We can add that.
We trust the director.
Cross-reference the other section,
Yes,
wherever it is.
yeah, that's
Okay.
it. Yeah. Am I a lawyer now? No. It's very important because we're not saying it's going to happen. We're not saying, but people might get wild at the bowling alley, and the owner just looks the other way, wink, wink. And I'm anticipating. He's got to wild some of these places sometimes, guys.
So just to be clear, it's also that the parameters of alcohol sales and drinking on premises is also reviewed by the location of sensitive receptors as well.
Come again one more time, the question.
Okay.
The
I
alcohol
know what you're
sales
saying.
and stuff and drinking on the premises are reviewed to not be within the sensitive receptors.
With regards to the state license has a requirement where if the area is oversaturated with alcohol licenses, then there's certain legal findings that have to be made. There is not a specific requirement that in here that specifies that there has to be a specific clearance from a residential property. However, it does mention our alcohol regulations, and I want to say that there may be something within our alcohol regulations that requires a specific clearance. Is that what you're referring to? A specific clearance or a specific distance?
Yes, I am.
Obviously, we talk about oversaturation because we see that all the time. 20 in one area, 16 other area, and then it's up to the Planning Commission generally to be the first line that would say, we're going to override that. But they might find there's 20 in an area, but if there's residential and we don't have 1,000 feet, 1,500 feet from the school, I guess that's what is kind of more leaning toward. If you're we may have bowling alleys and things, then right across the street, residential. I'm not sure what would be there to protect that. In other words, if you're going to have alcohol sales from now people are going to want the bowling alley, but the idea is, if you're going to be within a certain 300 feet, 500 feet, or whatever that, then you may have to. I'm not sure what you would do, what the process would be. I know what you're saying, but that's a consideration. But anyway, I think that's more along the question: is it the sensitive receptor would probably school, residential, pretty much marijuana. I think the sales of that, you can't have things within certain. I guess that's where the tone of the question is.
Well, for Chair Hammond and Vice Chair Shively, I can tell you that Chapter 19.65 of the zoning ordinance regulates alcoholic beverage sales regulations. So that's kind of the one-stop shop or the consolidated set of regulations that applies to regulations for alcoholic beverage sales. And so it states, that a conditional use permit is required for certain alcohol uses, as well as a development plan review in certain cases. And it basically provides certain required findings that would need to be made in order to approve a development plan for a use which involves the sale of alcoholic beverages or to grant a CUP for the sale of alcoholic beverages. And I believe it also has certain distance, at least in the application for the alcohol-related CUP or DPR, it requires them to specify the distance from the nearest sensitive receptor. And it does have certain prohibitions like no mini mart, cocktail lounge, liquor store, or service station selling alcoholic beverages shall locate within 1,000 feet of a church, school, park, or playground. And then that's where we've had other projects where, they talk about the undue concentration, and that's part of the mandatory findings on alcohol use. So that's where all of those alcohol regulations come in. I don't think you would necessarily add alcohol regulations in a separate chapter. You would want to kind of keep them consolidated in this chapter. I don't think there's any proposed changes to this chapter in this item before you.
It doesn't appear that way, but this chapter being altered to say alcohol sales in on-premises drinking outside of the 1965. Is that plausible to do that, or is that something that should be tied together with the two?
Are you saying like where this chapter mentions a microbrewery or some other use that involves alcohol sales, to clarify that the alcoholic sale component of that use would be subject to chapter 19.65? So any MCUP, so the MCUP application for a microbrewery would need to include the required findings being made under 19.65. I think that would already be the case, but that would be like a clarification.
1965, but 1965 doesn't say anything about the minor conditional use permits. It is continue with the conditional use permits.
So maybe adding edits to chapter 19.65 to clarify that MCUPs are included as well as CUPs. Where CUPs are referenced in 19.65, we could also reference MCUPs, or alternatively, where the changes are made in these chapters that reference microbreweries or any other alcoholic uses. I think microbreweries is the only one that's specifically references alcohol that's included in these proposed chapters. We could say, note that any changes would also be subject to 19.65.
Yeah, they should fall within the guidelines of
Yeah.
1965.
Yeah,
I
that
think
those
that's the-
required criteria would need to be met.
And I think any of the MCUPs that will have alcohol sales should be still covered under that, like the arcade, the laser tag,
Bowling alley.
bowling alley, anything that may have an alcohol like
yeah.
component should still fall within those guidelines.
We could reference the section 19.65 as part of the land use tables, just so that they know that they comply. And then as part of that, we can include some additional verbiage referencing minor conditional use permit within 1965, so that the document as a whole is internally consistent.
Very good.
I do have one more that I hopefully to clarify. Attachment number 4, section 1961, 0.030. I lost it.
The revocation section?
Yeah.
Yep. Subsection B1. Can you clarify the intent of changing planning commissioner to city? And I know that you're also adding and provide written report of the findings of said investigation to the review authority. Can you clarify that?
19.61.
All right, 1961, 060.
Oh,
030.
okay.
Oh,
0630.
030.
Okay. Thank you.
Subsection B1.
I think that goes back to what I was saying earlier about who the process, the city shall investigate the facts, okay?
I believe it was changed to city because since we're combining conditional use permit and minor conditional use permit, and they both have different approving authorities, it just makes it easy to say the city, that way it's applicable, whether it be planning commission or administratively by the director. Because it would be confusing to say planning commission or director, so that's why it's, the city implies the correct approving authority when it comes to either the conditional use permit or the minor conditional use permit.
So alternatively, instead of the city, it could say the review authority and not have the red line added at the end of the paragraph.
$19.61.30.
Point one.
It's B,
E1.
B1. Okay. Oh, okay, okay. Well, I better see the city because I don't want to investigate it. That's something you want to do. That would be code for whoever the case, so district, yeah. Because there could be any part of, anyone from the city could delegate to do that. And last thing for me, just clarification. When we talk about these particular uses, and I think we talked about it in the pre-meeting, but the idea, are these existing structures that decide they want to become one, or are these new facilities and new construction? Because the big difference, if I have a, quote, warehouse, there was one, instantly for you guys who weren't here, on Harley Knox, there was a building on the north side, and they were talking about recreational things in that area. And the guy never came through, he never had the money, but they were talking about all kind of recreation uses in one of the, they tore it down, the building, thank goodness, the one to vandalize. But they were talking about recreational, basketball, all kind of indoor courts right off of the airport. And we were ready to prove it. So it is possible, it was possible, that was even airport zone and they had a time, but it was something that the guy proposed and we didn't have a problem with it, but it ran out of money. But anyway, that's just an example of it has been done in the past. I think going back to my question, and then lastly, if you have existing building instructions, for instance, you want to add a health and fitness thing in there, you want to do it, but it's existing. Is that different than if they want to build it from scratch?
Yes.
Yeah,
it is.
the answer is yes. If there's this is really more applicable to existing buildings. The reason for that is because if it's a DPR, if it's a new building, it would require an additional application. And at that point in time, the process would be very much kind of analogous to a CUP. So it would require a development plan review, and that requires approval by the Planning Commission. So at that point, any request would come before you. So this is really, the intent here is really for buildings that are existing. But if a new use comes in, new use, not new building, not new development, then the purpose would be really to allow it through the MCUP process.
Okay. If it required, which it probably shouldn't, but if you're in a light industrial zone well, that would be a different process. I won't even go there. But the idea is that if existing buildings, you decide you want to change it and become one of these particular things that are here, then it would be discretionary approval, but you have some specific things. Hopefully we can change recreational areas, facilities, because I don't know about really holding to 5,000 square feet, but at least the idea is to streamline the process. And less intensive, I think would be the word. So less intensive or impactful uses. If it's something really major, then obviously we would be looking at something on a larger scale.
Yeah, that is correct. That's a good point. If there was, for instance, already, let's say, a trampoline zone, a trampoline kind of recreation use on the site, and a new recreation use wanted to go in there, technically it could be allowed without an approval. Somebody could just go right in, since it's a like-for-like use.
I'll give you an example, and I'll be quiet. It's the Walmart facility, the old Walmart. We have trampoline in there. You have fitness next to it. You have trampoline in there. I don't know how successful it is, but it's all in there now. They don't advertise much, but it's in that same building because it had 200-some thousand square feet. So I think they divided that building up, and you have the shoe on the corner, and Harbor Freight. Then you have that trampoline that you go in from the backside. And that's a use that was allowed in there, but it didn't come through us. So maybe that was discretionary approval. I'm not sure how that happened, but in fact, I don't know how they got that in there by coming through us. But it was approved. They were in there. They're in there now. So that may be an example of using that facility that was originally a community commercial, a neighborhood, and allowing that in there because it falls under the community commercial thing. So in that sense, it would make sense to have that in there. Or if someone wanted to come in with a health fitness center, not build one from scratch, but utilize something like that. Hopefully not warehouse, because you might have some issues, environmental. But if you use a warehouse facility, God forbid one of them closes, that would be a lot of square footage. But to utilize something like that, you have the pros and nos and prohibited in those kind of areas. So it's pretty much laid out. But the question I was asking, if it was existing and or not existing, it makes a big difference. It's a big difference. If existing buildings, that makes an outstanding difference. Especially if you have tutoring, you tend to use facilities that are already there, and I can appreciate that. So I think it's good from that standpoint. Okay. Any other questions? Mr. Shively.
Not a question, but just to follow up with the same section in 1961.115, Section A. You were doing some editorial cleanup. Under the third line, I'm not sure if you want to capitalize the Director of Development Services as well, that everything else is capitalized prior to that. And after that, maybe just one missed it.
You mean on C? You mean on C?
Third line, item A,
Okay.
subsection A,
Yeah, I see it.
third line. Nothing in this section shall preclude the Director of Development Services. That wants to be capitalized, just following the cleanup.
Yeah. And 1961.115.
1961.15,
19.61.115, right?
correct.
And that's subsection A. Capitalize. Okay. He's doing your school function. What is this? He's trying to take over? Okay. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. A lot of the typos. Okay. Anything else, guys? I think they have quite a list here. I think there may be some. We mentioned go-karts and all that thing. I mean, we probably put about as much. You guys be more. You're younger than I am. So go-karts and you name it.
I did have one more because there was a section about the structures and colors and architecture and landscaping and all. Because it said it should match the surrounding areas, but I know there's areas where we're trying to enhance. So that would also be under the planning director's purview, right?
Correct.
Landscaping as well. I mean, it would have to meet with the compliance of the area, but it would still fall within.
Any minor improvements that don't require approval from the planning commission would be reviewed and approved by the Director of Community Development.
Because most of the time it's existing buildings already, so it
It's
wouldn't.
existing buildings, so typically
Signage.
we would look at the landscaping, the condition of the parking lot, any fencing, anything that's in haphazard condition. We would typically require that they upgrade or that they improve so that it's, consistent and hopefully, obviously improves the appearance of the center.
I did want to add lighting. I didn't see lighting, especially if we're going to be using some of these industrial locations. I know that lighting in parking lots is not usually very bright because they're used during the day. So I'm just thinking about nighttime use, just making sure that that's also something that we look at.
Just remember, this is the proposal before you today is for the minor conditional use permit process. So we're not approving design of a site or a building. So it would be difficult to add that to a conditional use permit process.
I think just in the description on top, because there's a component that talks about, way at the beginning, that talks about what we look at, and it's the structures,
Right, so.
just adding something in there that also references not just the structure and landscaping, but also safety or
Which section? I'm sorry,
lighting.
Commissioner
It
Jimenez.
was, I know it was way at the beginning. And I don't have the good Acrobat, so I can't do the Control F. It wasn't necessarily under conditions of approval, but it was. Let's see. Do any of you all have the Control F so you can look up structure? Yeah, me either. Rafa, do you remember where it was? Because I remember there was a part of that looked at like structures to match the surrounding.
It may be one of the findings for the minor CUP.
I think it was, because I'm trying to find it. I remember seeing it pretty early in the.
My guess is that maybe page 5 of 10 of 1954. So 1954 subsection C.
Maybe that's where it's at.
It says the architecture is compatible with community standards and protects character of adjacent development. Does that sound like it?
Like that, but then there was another one, landscaping was also bolded in the next.
Yeah, and number 5, it says the landscaping plan ensures visual relief, provides an attractive environment for the public's enjoyment.
Yes,
Okay, so yeah, that's under the conditional use permit, section 1954.040. So that's under the findings. Findings for the conditional use permit.
okay. Parking, signs, utilities, walls and fences. We talk about a lot of things, but not really. Lighting, yeah, B is architecture. We talk about access, orientation, architecture, landscaping, parking, signs, utilities. Maybe within, parking shall be provided consistent with chapter 19.69. I don't remember what 19.69 says about parking. I don't remember if there's any notes on appropriate lighting. Might be down here, 6.1.
$19.69 is parking, right, Rafa?
Yes, it's parking, but I don't
believe so.
remember if it specifies anything around.
Yeah, there's
Lighting,
a section, yeah, there's a section there for lighting.
I remember it was just, what was it called? The foot lighting,
Book candles or?
I think that's what it said, but
What page are you looking at in the packet, in the PDF packet?
it's not in here. It was, Rafa, can you tell us again where, 19 point, what was it? We're looking at all those.
It's possible that, I know during the last meeting, we were talking about some conditions of approval.
Yeah, which number was it? Because I was,
I believe the conditions of approval are typically something that included as part of the project, so they wouldn't be here. They wouldn't necessarily be in the findings. Here, in the findings, we have kind of the basic findings, but the conditions of approval have a specific subsection that talks about uplighting. Is that what you're referring to?
I'm referring just about lighting because I know industrial buildings are usually operated during the day, so the lighting of the parking itself is not usually very bright. And I'm thinking about like my daughter's leaving a bowling alley at midnight with their friends and the lighting isn't sufficient for safety. So,
I'm looking at the chapter 19.69 parking, and there is a provision there that parking areas shall have lighting capable of providing illumination for security and safety.
okay, good.
The minimum requirement is 1-foot candle maintained across the surface of the parking area. Lighting standards shall be energy efficient and in scale with the height and use of the structure. Any illumination, including security lighting, shall utilize full, it just provides,
But it does
whole-
specify that
yes.
enough lighting for safety. Okay, so we don't need to add it because it's under the provision
already
for
under, yes.
the findings for parking. Thank you.
Just to clarify, also the 1-foot candles code prescriptive requirement. It is 1-foot candle.
yeah, it's in the parking section. Yeah.
Okay, okay. Anything, Mr. Isaac, you've been so quiet. You good? Yeah. Okay. Okay, I think at this point, thank you, first and foremost, thank you for your presentation. There's a lot of amendments, so obviously I'm not very good at writing. But at the present, I would just say that without going through the whole entire process, it is that I'll summarize it. We adopt Resolution 26-04, that the City Council determine the project is exempt from SEQA. And we certainly propose will not have an effect on the environment and approve zoning codes 26-00001 to amend the Paris Municipal Code to establish, this is the main thing, a minor conditional use permit process for lower impact uses based on the findings contained, uses based on the findings contained therein. And there are a lot of amendments to this. But this includes the Pacific Valley PVCC, the Green Valley. It's getting tongue-tied here. And also the Downtown Specific Plan as well. Okay, that's what the DPSP means. Try saying that quickly. Okay. There are several amendments, and I'm going to miss them, but with help so we can speed up this process, I think. One of them being, and there's several here, you talked about the redlining on 2604, Section 4, in red line font. And I think there was more than one space there, 05, and I think also Section 05, 04. Replace the sentence, changes should be shown. Again, the redlining should be changed. 19.61.115 to capitalize. Also, bowling alleys, you can help me out with the specifics. Arcades with alcohol, potentially bowling alleys with alcohol, with or without, we will make that statement there to show with or without needs to be permitted in these particular categories. You did mention, so it kind of answered my question about appeals. It is in 19.61.030, so it does mention the appeals to the Planning Commission.
Appeals, I did look
Yeah,
that up.
yeah.
It's in 19.54.030A3.
That's what I just had
It
to see,
states
yeah.
that director decisions can be
Right.
appealed to the Planning Commission, so we would reference that
Yeah,
specifically in this.
and I
if
think we
you'd
had a
like,
reference to
cross-reference it.
19.65 as well, right?
For 19.65, we're going to cross-reference it in the notes in the table and also add amendments to the actual chapter 19.65 to reference MCUP.
Okay. The lighting, of course, is I think is mentioned in there. Okay. Anything I missed, Jack? The typo in the one that you talked about was 19.61.030 to capitalize the development director. But I would just say a quick review of all that to ensure that it's capitalized. To say development director. That's typo stuff. Okay.
Did you get the combined microbrewery definition?
That's what I was thinking I was getting to, and I wasn't sure about that. So combine that one.
The definition that was shown on the screen earlier, that's the new
Right.
combined
Yeah.
microbrewery definition with the land use regulations for that category being as shown for the on-sale category in the draft
Right.
reso.
Microbrewery. Okay.
Did we get the one where we're gonna add these descriptions to,
The recreational amenities definition needs to be
Right.
amended in the Paris Valley Commerce Center specific plan to include trampoline park. I think we, golf course, miniature
or
golf.
laser
Go-karts,
tag
yeah.
and,
Laser tag was already incled.
okay, it was.
The
Escape rooms.
Health and fitness
The health
center.
and
Yeah.
fitness
And the health
center.
and fitness
Remove it from the
center.
parenthetical and put it in the definition.
And
And
that's
all
the
of these
only
are
one.
limited to 5,000 square feet.
No, I think it was only
Just the health
the
and fitness
fitness.
center?
Fitness.
Yeah,
Centers
just the
were
fitness.
5,000, everything else was, yes.
The only clarification, you said Paris Valley, but are we talking about Green River and the downtown? It's just the PVCC?
Yeah, because that definition is included in the Paris Valley Commerce Center specific plan.
Okay.
And if we can also add the modifications as read into the record by Ben.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, including the part about director having authority to make further edits consistent with the intent of the recommendation prior to going to council, and referring to the attachments in section 4 of each resolution for showing the red line font as shown in the attachments.
Okay. I tried to cover it. If I missed something, let me know.
And correcting, as Commissioner Mena stated, correcting CUP to prohibited for warehouse in the BP zone
Right,
for
right.
chapter 19.44.
Okay. It's only a few. We didn't do too
The
bad.
CEQA finding edit that I mentioned at the beginning for section 2A of the, on page 53 of the packet.
Did we get into the record 1961-030B1, change city to review authority?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, wait. Change planning commission to city. I think it was city. Yeah, the city, not the planning commission. That's the key. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Big difference there. Okay. And ultimately, I think hopefully you got all that. I think you always look at the tape too. Yeah, I know it's a lot. It's really ultimately it's a discretionary review of the development director. That's the bottom line. And if things need to be appealed, they come to us and like the usual process. I think that's ultimately streamline is. Okay. I don't have to repeat that. Anyone like to make a motion to adopt this with the changes and amendments that we've stated? Commissioner Jimenez. Oh. Okay, and Commissioner Menez. Yeah. Okay. Oh, boy. Second. You got me on that one. I gotta give.
Commissioner Lopez,
Yes.
Commissioner Jimenez,
Yes.
Commissioner Menez,
Yes.
Vice Chair Shively,
Yes.
Chair Hammond.
Yes.
With a vote of 5-0, this motion is approved.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for the presentation, sir. Very good. And so we're ready to go. Okay. Item 7 is public comments. Wow, this will be quick. Anyone in the public who wishes to address the planning commission regarding items not on the agenda may do so at this time and walk up to the podium and wait for the chairperson to recognize you. Seeing none, we'll close the public comments and move on to business items. Any business items? No business items. We move on to item 9, commission updates and announcements.
This past weekend we had Friday the 13th and of course Valentine's Day. So I hope that everybody had a great Valentine's Day, spending time with their loved ones, and luckily we got pretty
Sorry.
good weather on Saturday.
Sorry, commissioners, we never opened it up for public comment for the hearing. Oh, you did? Okay, sorry to interrupt. Okay,
Yeah, it was a long. Thank you, thank you.
sorry, Commissioner Lopez.
Oh no,
go
you're
ahead.
good.
Okay, that's okay.
Yeah, I hope that everybody had a good Valentine's Day and got to spend a holiday with their loved ones. We got a wave of cold weather suddenly, so I just hope that everybody stays warm out there and dry with the rain, and that everybody has a good night.
I just want to echo those sentiments. I hope everybody had a really great, I know a lot of us had 3-day weekends, so a great 3-day weekend or a regular weekend. If you didn't, I work for a school, so it was wonderful. But that's about it. I hope everybody stays safe, stays warm in these upcoming cold days and rainy days, and that's all I have.
Thank you.
Happy Valentine's to everyone. A little delayed, hoping everybody was able to spend time with loved ones, friends, family, significant other, whoever brings joy to your heart. I echo those 2-3 day weekends in a row felt phenomenal. So if, Vice Chair Shively's a little jealous, that's okay. I did also want to promote the Paris Market Night, the culture walks, every fourth Saturday of the month for 2026 from 5 to 10 p.m. I've been to a couple of these and they are phenomenal. They are amazing. The live music is great. The dancing is great because, we dance. The music is amazing. And just being able to be out and about with so many of our city residents. We get people from outside too. Like the lines are crazy to get in there. Parking is crazy, but it's a wonderful experience because you run into your neighbors and people that are coming out from different parts are also seeing all the amazing things happening in Paris. So I think it's a great thing to have. I did want to also tell our residents to be on the lookout for updates from the city. I noticed that the hike this weekend was canceled just because of the weather and the rain. So just take a double look to make sure that the events that we were planning on attending are still happening just because of the weather. So everybody stay safe. Bring your pets inside because it's really cold. Hoping everybody stays warm.
What's 3-day weekends?
Yeah.
You don't even get weekends sometimes.
Yeah.
I got nothing to report. I do hope everybody did have a good Valentine's Day. Short, sweet.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here. I think we have one more meeting she's going to talk about, and then we have our League of California Cities in March. They still allow Paris to come, which is good. Or me to come, I should say. Okay. We did go, what was it, February 7th, Mr. Lopez, to the Paris Depot. And they had the tools. And if you go inside the depot, there's all these old tools. Not you, you. I'm surprised you didn't say anything. Yeah, they had all these beautiful tools. They had some Native American dance on stage. And the mayor was there, and he get the proclamations as usual. But the Historic Society was up there. They were on the stage. They put it together. And so you go through there. It's been once I've been in that museum. And they've got all these old tools going back to 1800s. There was actually a cyclone in Paris in 1888, which I was shocked. There was a cyclone in Paris. Huh? A cyclone is happening on the seashore. No, it was in Paris. It was 1888. Strange things happened out here. But all the different kinds of tools, all that kind of stuff is there. It's there. It shows, and it's probably gonna be there for a while. But tools that you would not believe. I don't know. Somebody had these, but all across the walls, all across the site. So it was a very nice event. And it was warmer than usual, but say thank you. And with that, we move it on to the planning managers, updates, and announcements.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For March 4th, we do have 2 items. We have a conditional use permit for alcohol sales at a gas station, and we're bringing back the gas station with the self-storage facility on Case, Ellis, and Getz. So those 2 items will be coming before you on March 4th. I do want to emphasize, as Commissioner Jimenez indicated, to attend the Paris Cultural Walk. It's going to be a fun event, so everyone is welcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I hadn't heard it before, but it's the first time I've heard of it. Okay. And with that, thank you all staff. We left you alone, Brad, this time. Don't think of that in the future. Though. Yeah, okay. And thank you, Sylvie, as usual. And with that, we want to have adjournment. Anyway, I can move to adjourn. Anybody can second it. We're done. Okay. And it's approximately 7:32 p.m. Thank you.